Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you ever so much for spending some time with me today. Welcome back to inSPIRED. I'm going to give a little bit of time for people to jump into the stream, but hopefully some people are here now. The interface that I'm in, I can't see perfectly, so hopefully a few of you are there. But I'll give a little bit of time for people to jump in before I dive deep into today's episode. Firstly, thank you for bearing with me. There was no episode last month. I do apologize for that. I do have a pretty good reason. I was on my very belated honeymoon. We went to Mauritius and Dubai. It was wonderful. Had a fantastic time. As a consequence, I couldn't make inSPIRED because I was, too busy being on the beach and having a great time and not thinking about LinkedIn. But no, back now and really excited to be back. Have missed doing it. Although I was only away for a month, I did really miss it. And today's episode has got the typical things that you would come to expect from inSPIRED by now. We've got 5 fantastic LinkedIn posts for you today, guys. Really great content from some fantastic creators on this platform. Also have the news section that I've introduced, which is my post of the month. This is a post that really resonated with me as a creator and something that I think is really valuable. It doesn't necessarily mean it's better than the others. It's just something that really stood out to me and grabbed my attention. So I'm going to shed some light on that also. And then there will be some time for any questions. So if there are any people in the stream who'd like to fire questions, please feel free to do so. You can enter your questions through the chat box throughout this stream. I will get to as many as possible. And if there aren't that many, no worries. We can catch up at a later stage. You can always connect with me on LinkedIn. My inbox is always open, so please feel free to fire any questions or information in there, and I'm always happy to help. So I'm going to give the stream a little bit of time and just see if there's any people who are going to join before I deep dive into October's episode. So what I will do for now is I will just make that way, and then you should be able to see the episode. Yeah, lovely. There's me all in my glory. Sorry if you hear any noise, by the way. I've got headphones in, so hopefully you should only hear my dulcet tones. But there's a lot of stuff going on outside. The rozzers have been tearing down the road. Does anyone remember that? The rozzers from Top Gear, James May. Crikey, it's the rozzers. Anyway, lots of police, lots of activity. So it's all happening today in sunny Canterbury. Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to crack on. Hopefully you guys can see. And let's jump into October's episode of inSPIRED. So, as I said, I have 5 fantastic posts for you guys today. I really hope you're going to enjoy them. These are 5 posts from really great creators on this platform. Some I've featured before, some I haven't, but all of which you're going to get fantastic takeaways from as well. So without further ado, people, let's jump into this one. Okay, so first up, we have an excellent post from Natasha Holland. Now, you may be familiar with Natasha. I've featured her a few times on inSPIRED, and for good reason. Natasha is a fantastic creator and someone who regularly provides value to me and to many other people. But I also really like her stance on personal branding. She has some amazing commentary and thoughts about women in the workplace and particularly in the marketing sector. So I really would implore you to follow Natasha if you don't already. But this month, I want to focus on a great piece of content that she provided. And she talks about selling the why whenever you promote your product or services. And this is something that is really, really important and something that is only getting more important as content marketing develops on LinkedIn and elsewhere. We're about to head into 2023, guys, and there's a lot of stuff that is changing. And the traditional methods and means of how you market your products do not cut the mustard anymore. There's too much competition. There's too much other stuff trying to grab people's attention and interest. So you really need to value and propose your proposition, propose the products and the services you want to sell as a way to actually help someone improve their life, improve a task they're trying to complete. The actual benefit and the why is so much more important than the actual product-led information. And we've mentioned this on inSPIRED before, but it's a topic that bears repeating, because if you can get people to buy into the product, but moreover, why they need the product and why it's helpful to them, that's way more interesting than upselling a new feature that you may be offering or a new discount. The way that you can actually garner someone's interest is by showing how that product or that service has a direct benefit and impact on what they need to do. And if you think about all the things that you use on a daily basis, you don't think about them from the product-led perspective. You think about how they aid you. You don't look at your phone and think, oh, I've got an Apple iPhone 12 Pro with a 45 megapixel camera. You think, I've got a mobile phone that allows me to browse the internet and go on social media and take cool pictures with. That's the benefit of that device. The fact that it's the Apple iPhone turbocharged 16 or whatever is cool, but it's not enough to make you buy it. And even brands like Apple know this. It's why they'll lead with enhancing the quality of your videos and your pictures. They did a big campaign around cinematic mode and how you can be empowered to be a director of your own films. And that's a much more powerful grab to make someone more interested in your product than to say, I've got a cool new phone with a cool camera. So always think about the why, think about the benefit, think about how that product or that service enhances someone's life, solves a problem, makes it easier for them to get on board with, because that will resonate so much better and it will hopefully encourage that person to have repeat custom with you, because that's what we want, right? We don't just want one quick sale. We want a repeat customer. We want an advocate. We want someone who is going to buy into what we do, see us as a beneficiary to their life, and continue to work with us. It's a fantastic post by Natasha. And as I said, if you haven't followed her on LinkedIn, please do so. Next up, we have a really cool post from Matt Swain. And Matt Swain is someone I've been following for a while. I really like his stance on personal branding and the way that he positions topics for personal branding, I think are very interesting. Again, I would implore you to follow him if you don't. But I really liked this post, guys, and there's a specific reason. We're constantly talking about new things, right? We're always talking about like new trends or new things you need to get on top of, or try this or beat the algorithm that. And fundamentally, the more things you put on your plate, the less likely you are to do something. We're all like it. We don't want to do more work outside of our own jobs. So piling on lots of new things you have to try and things you must do can actually be a little bit annoying. People don't really want to do that. They want to know what they can do as a constant to have some kind of benefit. And Matt has kind of outlined these staples for success that no matter how much the LinkedIn algorithm changes, no matter how much user changes happen, which is regular, these are things that you can always implement and do as part of your strategy, your planning, however you want to dress it up. And I think some of these are gold, and I'm going to highlight the ones I think are really important. The first is become known for 3 specific things. Now, I would actually argue you don't have to be known for 3 specific things, but you need to be known for something. You cannot appease everybody. You don't have enough broad insight on every topic to address every situation and every type of query. You are going to be a specialist in a specific discipline, or you are going to have an enhanced interest or knowledge in a specific place. That's great. Use that. That's your ammunition to bring people on board and get them consuming your content. And moreover, it makes you so much more dependable, because if people know that they can come to, say, for me, for advice about content, that means I've made a staying point in their mind's eye. They know that if they come to my profile, they understand what they're going to get. And if they don't like that, that's completely their discretion and they can go somewhere else. But the people who do like it, they know that I'm always going to deliver on that thing for them. And that's really important, because that dependability will keep you accountable and will keep people visiting your LinkedIn profile. The next thing I really like here is where he says, tell your most personal stories. And this is something that we all struggle to do with, and with good reason. We don't want to spill the beans all the time. We don't want to project our vulnerability all the time. It's uncomfortable, it's difficult. But having the confidence in yourself to tell your story and to share your experiences is massively helpful for people. At the end of the day, regardless of what you're trying to do with LinkedIn, whatever your niche, whatever your aim, you are still in correspondence with another human being behind that screen. And we can all understand and we can all relate to how people do things in their daily lives. And there's so much experience and value that you can provide from actually telling your accounts and your stories of things. And I would implore you to pluck up the courage to do this, because it shows that you're willing to wear what makes you unique as your armor. And it's a brilliant way to get people on board, to get them invested in you. And that is always what we want to do. And the final one I want to comment on is the second point here. And he says, know why you're posting. What's your why? And this is really key, because as much as I can say to you and encourage you to use LinkedIn, it's got to be something that you want to do. You've got to want to put the time into it. You've got to want to create the content. You've got to want to build that community. And it does take time. And there are days where it comes far easier. You might create a post that does really well and gets a lot of impressions and a lot of engagement, and then do 2 or 3 that fall off a cliff. And that's part of it. It's difficult, and there's that emotional barrier attached to it. But if you know why you are posting and you have that in mind and you keep that as your guide, you will always have a level of success on this platform. I think this is a really helpful bit of advice. Thank you to Matt for sharing it. Great post. Let's move on to the next. Before I do that, I'm going to have a slug of tea, because good Lord, I can talk. Okay. So next post is from Ryan Flair. And you know what? I spoke to Ryan about this post because it resonated with me deep. Ryan is a fantastic video creator. He's quickly becoming one of my favorite video creators. I really like Ryan's approach to content, but I also really like Ryan's personality. He wears who he is, and he shows that to people. And his background, he's very much from a background of kind of like nature photography and nature videography, and he has a real kind of grounded and rooted idea of content, and that massively resonates with me as a person, moreover than, you know, the high baller type content that you see all over LinkedIn. I really like the kind of the rustic and real approach that Ryan creates, and this post hit deep, and I'm going to tell you why. So here, Ryan says that the main thing that's killing your confidence on your videos, but also in presentations and any kind of environment where you're publicly speaking, is running from a script word for word. So you may be able to tell, you may not, depends how good I am. I don't script nothing. I literally mean nothing. I've got no notes for what I'm doing now. I am completely freeballing this. I am winging it. And the reason why I'm winging it is because my personality comes out so much more when I talk. If I'm working from notes or if I'm working from a script, I feel like I have to remember certain things to say. I actually end up editing what I want to say in order to say the things that's on the piece of paper. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that this style is for everyone and do not have notes, because some people need notes and notes are wonderful. But do not script everything you do. Allow yourself to actually talk naturally, to bring your voice, to bring your personality, and also to accept your shortcomings. If I make a boo-boo, I'll make a laugh about it and say I made a boo-boo. It's absolutely fine. But actually, people buy into that more. That's so much more valuable, because people start seeing the real you. They see the version of you that you present to everyone, not just the work version, not just the relationship version, not just the LinkedIn version. They see you for who you are. And your voice and your personality is your superpower. So when you create content, allow people to see that. Now, Ryan's actually got some great tips here for how to make your videos kind of more conversational in tone, if that's something that you're not massively au fait with. And he says kind of write a 3-point outline, have a hook, and then freestyle. And I like this little framework because he basically allows you to jot down the main things that you want to say, then have an idea of, okay, this is what I'm saying. Now, how do I action what I'm saying? And the rest of it, fill in the gaps. And I think this is a really good method to follow if this is a new thing for you. And it will be strange. You will find it uncomfortable. You probably will make mistakes, but that's absolutely fine. And if you're going to make mistakes, doing it on video is one of the best ways. You're filming yourself. If you don't like it, you can refilm it. You can edit it. You can do multiple takes. But you will still keep that flavor of your authenticity running through proceedings. You will still stay authentic and natural, and that is what people like to see. And I've massively built my brand on that. So whenever I talk publicly or I talk on inSPIRED or whatever, I try my utmost to freestyle the whole thing. because I'm confident in what I'm talking about. I believe in what I talk about, and I hope that that comes across to people in a way that they understand. So I really, really vibe with this post from Ryan. I think it's an excellent bit of advice. It might not be the simplest thing to do, but I would implore you to give it a go. Okay, on to my fourth post, and we've got a newbie here, and we have got Zach Robinson. Now, if you are not familiar with Zach Robinson, he goes by the name of Mr. Sarcastic on LinkedIn, and good Lord, is he sarcastic. This guy kills me. He's one of the funniest creators, I think. He's got such dry wit, and if that's your kind of humor, you will love Zach. I really enjoy looking through Zach's content, and as a copywriter, he's a wonderful copywriter. So not only is he funny, not only is his advice actionable, he's also a brilliant copywriter and a great storyteller. So I would massively implore you to check out Zach, especially if you like kind of wry humor. He's right up your alley. But despite being funny, despite being confrontational, he also provides really good ideas and stuff that you can actually action, like this. I love this. So Zach suggests that quite often that your ideas come to you, yeah, not in the most convenient place. You might be out on a walk, you might be in the bathroom, you're probably not necessarily going to be sat at your desk with your computer or your notepad and be ready to let those ideas flow out. However, most of the time you've probably got your phone on you. Most people are rarely any less than like 10 meters from their phone. So your phone is actually a great tool. And beforehand, we've recommended taking a note. You know, opening notes doc and blah, 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 popping your note down. Well done. Trouble is, when you do that, you actually take away the tone or the feeling of what you're trying to say. That the message and the way that it wants to come across gets diluted because words are not always the best way to showcase a feeling or showcase a moment. They're great, but they're not the be all and end all. And so actually take a voice note, record your voice and talk through what's in your head. And the reason why this is such a good bit of advice is because it captures that feeling. It captures the energy of that moment, the enthusiasm for that idea, the emotion behind it, the humor behind it, whatever it might be. And then when you listen to it back, you get that feeling of that kind of emotion and that energy. You feel like, okay, yeah, I remember how I felt in this moment. And just transcribe it. And you'll find that you will not only write great content because you've already had wicked ideas, but you'll also be able to inject that flavor of how you felt and how you want the person who's reading it to feel. I think this is such a good bit of advice and something that we've never touched on in inSPIRED before. We've never really touched on the audio element of content, but I do think that actually the way that you read things and the way that you hear things is different. And you can hear someone's enthusiasm. You can hear someone's upset. You can hear their frustration. It comes across in the way they talk. So if you can capture that on your voice note and then turn that into content, you're onto a winner. I think this is such a good bit of advice from Zach. And thank you for sharing this. It's something that I'm definitely going to do myself. And yeah, please check him out. He's such a funny guy. I love his content. It really does warm my day. He's just so darkly funny. So if that's your bag, check out Zach. All right. And lastly, before we get onto the post of the month, we're ending with Dina Kalakovich. Now, I've mentioned Dina on inSPIRED several times, and with good reason. She's up there with one of the most consistent content and copywriters on LinkedIn, certainly within my network. I think she's very much a case of content for action. And I think that is what a lot of people want. You know, talking about content as a means to showcase personality and stuff is massively critical. But a lot of people also want content to generate action. And that's what Dina does so brilliantly with her words and her stories. And I really love this piece of content, which I will tell you in approximately 2 seconds. Yorkshire tea or bus, man. So it's all about how you say something. And what she says here is successful content creators very rarely change what they talk about. Remember back to Matt's post about being known for a specific thing? This is what Dina is relaying here. However, they do change how they talk about something. So the topic may be the same, but the delivery changes. And she's given 5 really good action points here. And for example, clear rather than clever. We all start out when we create content. We always want to think people to think we're smarter than we actually are. So we use buzzwords, we use jargon, we bloat sentences, we make paragraphs sound more, like romantic or designed. And actually, most of the time, we could have said what we need to say in like 5 words. So be clear and be concise rather than clever. She said examples rather than theory. And this is something that I do a lot when I create content, particularly around copywriting. Show an example of what you're telling people about. Don't just say, do this because it's way better than doing that. Actually prove why it's better or prove why it's a good alternative. She then says educational over promotional. And I think that's something that, you guys will know from watching Inspired over the last 1.5 near to 2 years now. It's all about educating people. The whole reason I created this series was to provide more education for great content that helps people use this platform better. It's not a promotion for me. It's a promotion for wonderful content. And then benefits over features. Again, we've already kind of covered this in this episode, but highlighting how your product or your service improves someone's life, makes their job easier, makes their day better, you name it, whatever. But highlight that rather than your fancy new feature. And the last one, and maybe the most important, is you posts over me posts. And the way that I read this is that Dina knows her audience expect a certain type of content. And as a consequence, she needs to write content for them. It's about them or the person viewing the content at that moment. It's not about her. It's not about her progression. It's not about her success. It's about her being the educator and the provider of the knowledge that they are seeking. And this is really key, guys, because if you take yourself out of the equation, you take your ego out of the equation, you take maybe even your growth goals or whatever you want to call it, and you focus on being reliable and providing the material and the resource that people expect of you, the better all of that ego stuff will become, because it will just grow organically. People will start coming to you because they understand you. I've mentioned him before, but Rob Harris, our development head here at Finally, he's carved himself a niche talking about web development, web design, and website building. And as a consequence, people come to his content, and it works because he writes it because he knows it, and he knows that people are now wanting and expecting it. It's a brilliant transaction. So I would implore you to use all of these things if you don't already. I think this is a really wonderful bit of advice. If you're really on a mindset of creating content specifically for action, definitely check out Dina. This is one of her many posts. She posts pretty much every day, and there's always something that's relevant, particularly if you're interested in kind of sales. Dina is your woman. So definitely check her out. And so before I shut up, I'm going to show you my post of the month. And as I said, this is a kind of a new thing that I've started initiating since we've made this a live structure. Also, to give you a little bit of a kind of sneak peek, myself and Millie, who's the lead of marketing here at Finally, have discussed about kind of some of the things we want to do with Inspired into the new year. One of them being kind of quarterly webinars. We're going to do kind of longer 45-minute to an hour sessions with a key creator that I featured, talking about a big topic. So lots of ways that we can introduce new ways to promote great content, great creators, great messaging here on Inspired. But the post of the month is something that I wanted to add because sometimes I feel like there's more than 5 that I want to showcase, but I don't know how to fit it in. And this gives me the opportunity to pick something that is resonated with me. As you can tell from those lists, they all did, particularly Ryan's really hit me in the feels. But this is something that I think a lot of you are going to benefit from. So I shall reveal. So my post of the month is from Lara Acosta. And this is a wicked bit of advice, right, that no one ever talks about. She talks about stealing other people's content ideas. Now, as someone who has had content from them stolen several times, of which once I had a great post about how marketers are like comedians, or like content writers are about comedians. It did quite well. Someone took it and it did even better for them. So, I was a little bit like, oh, cheers, mate. But it's a great point. And Lara says here, which I really love, she says, no content ideas, steal them. All your favorite creators do it, you just don't. You don't know how to do it. And she provides the list of how to do it. And study this list. She says, go to the LinkedIn search bar, type in a keyword that you're looking for, then navigate to posts, and then from member. And by doing this, you will be able to select a specific creator who is talking about a specific topic in your field. And from doing that, click show results, and you will see all of their posts. Now, this is a really clever thing to do because, sure, creating your own content is really important, particularly because we want to advocate your personal brand, your flavor, your tone. That's really key. And there's no reason why you can't still do that with someone else's idea. You can shape your vision around that topic, around their idea. But the really good creators are very good at two specific things. They're really good at having a strong content framework and being consistent with how their posts look so that whenever you read it, whatever it is, it has a set structure and people buy into that. And they're damn good at setting call to actions. And calls to actions is something that a lot of people, myself included, can struggle with. It is hard to write a unique, compelling call to action every time you need to write one. But actually, if you look at the people who are converting and they're generating interest or business from their content, use those CTAs. Blend that with your flavor, blend that with your approach, use that kind of call to action and start creating content that not only has a tried and tested formula from someone who's worked, but also has your personality. And to be honest, if you look at anything in life, right, it's all a version of something that's kind of come before. So using someone else's content as the skeleton for your own post is hardly a new thing, but it's something that we don't massively do. And this is actually a process of how you can do it. So recommend you follow this. Check Lara out. She's got some really cool posts, particularly around kind of organic marketing and using LinkedIn as a kind of a bit more of a networking tool to learn about content and learn about creators. I think this is a very, very interesting bit of content. And my final piece of advice on this is if you do take someone's content, reference them, give them a tag. 2 reasons. 1, you get in their good books because they get a little kudos for the fact they provided something good and you've seen it as good. But secondly, it's just good manners. If you reference the person whose content you take and say, you know, shout out to blah, blah, blah for the fantastic post idea or whatever, it will just get you in the good books. So that's my final bit of advice on this, but I do think this is a fantastic tip. Thank you very much, Lara. So that is me done. I'm now going to continue drinking my moderately cold tea. It still tastes banging, but it is a bit cold. So if there are any questions, please feel free to bang them in the chat. I would love to receive them. If there's not, no drama. I say my profile is always on and always open, so you can always fire me questions in the comment section or in the DMs. Please follow me if you don't already. I post pretty much every day. And yes, I'm always on LinkedIn. I'm always available, so that would be wonderful. Rob said, I wouldn't steal a post word for word, but I might rework people's posts for my own niche. And I think that's exactly it, to be honest. I don't use their posts as a bit of a guide, as the skeleton, and then you provide the flesh. You add the layers on top of that. I think that's the best way to do it because you benefit from the kind of tried and tested formula, and you know a good way to frame a post, a good topic to talk about, a relevant topic, but you still are able to put your own flavor on it. I think that's the way to go rather than carbon copying someone else's content. So yes, I will be back next month, as always, back to normal programming. And as mentioned, into the new year, so as we get into 2023, there will be some changes to inSPIRED. We will still continue live every month, but we will be introducing the kind of quarterly webinars. If you are interested in that, please hit me up. I would love to hear from you. I'm in the process of kind of coming up with a few ideas for topics. I really want to make these rather than just a come to my webinar and they're really boring. I really want to make them actually valuable, and I really want to talk about topics that are, you know, meaningful to LinkedIn content and content in general. And I'm very keen to get creators who I featured, you know, regularly on inSPIRED because these are people who they're obviously providing value. So hopefully they'll provide even more live. Last question from Rob before I let you all go. He said, have you seen or have you heard of any new features coming to LinkedIn? I must admit, I haven't. I'm sure there are. I know they've been doing updates with the interface, and I know they've been adding new things like, you know, to actually make particularly the mobile experience better. So I'm sure there probably are developments. That's something that I would like to talk about, kind of upcoming features and upcoming trends, because, you know, we're always focusing on methods and means to kind of steer the algorithm when we're talking about content. but also there are actual things you can do tangibly with the platform to make the experience better for you, whether that's the basic things like creator mode or using some of the features inside the mobile app in particular, like video messaging, setting up meetings directly in DMs. There are functionalities that are happening. And I know that LinkedIn are trying to increase some of the accessibility features as well. But I'd be pretty confident to say there would be good upcoming features, particularly on the creator front, as they are leading as a creator-led platform now. But that's definitely something that I would explore, and I'm happy to explore with you, Rob. So we will look into that. But off the absolute top of my lid, I don't know explicitly today, so I will do some research. Right, I'm going to wrap it up there, guys. Hope you enjoyed. You can always catch us up, on the recording once it goes live, finished live on my profile. And I wish you all a beautiful rest of your day. Thank you very much for your time. And yes, please feel free to connect with me if you haven't already. And if I don't speak to you before, I will see you next month for the November episode of inSPIRED. But that's all from me, guys. See you later.